Thanks for tuning in. As a kid, when we would come home from midnight mass, my mom would serve us, our friends and family, this amazing spread. It would have pastijtjes. I've made a video of that before, and I'll put a link in the description below. Fresh rolls and Kerststol, my absolute favorite. A delicious bread filled with raisins, nuts and candied fruit with almond paste on the inside and just covered with powdered sugar. Hi, I'm Toine and welcome to my kitchen. If you're new to this channel, I focus on cooking foods from my home country, the Netherlands, and some of its former colonies such as Indonesia. Growing up, I would eat Kerststol or Stollen a very specific way. I would put butter on top, sprinkle a little sugar, and then I would eat very carefully around the almond paste that was kind of a log in the middle. And then the very last thing I would eat was that little piece of almond paste. And I would not be a happy camper when I went to grab a slice and it turned out that all that was left was what we call in Dutch het kontje, the butt end, the end of the loaf that had no almond paste in it. Before we go over the ingredients of the dough, you also need to have almond paste. I made it a little while ago. Let me show you how I did it. In a food processor, combine equal amounts of almonds and sugar and the zest of half a lemon and pulse it until it is a fine powder. Then add an egg, some almond extract and pulse it until it forms a ball. To make the dough, you'll need the following ingredients. 540 grams or 4.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 290 grams or 1¼ cup of lukewarm milk, 85 grams, 6 tablespoons of room temperature butter, 60 grams, which is 1/4 cup plus a heaping teaspoon of superfine sugar, 14 grams or 4 teaspoons of instant yeast, 1 teaspoon of speculaaskruiden. I made speculaaskruiden in the kruidnootjes video and I'll put a link to that video in the description below, 1 egg and 10 grams or 2 teaspoons of salt. Of course, a kerststol wouldn't be a kerststol without filling in the dough. For that, you will need 100 grams, 3/4 cup of unsalted, roasted and skinned hazelnuts, which I've then chopped, 160 grams of Thompson raisins, that makes a cup, and 140 grams of golden raisins also makes a cup, strangely enough, which we soaked in lukewarm water for at least an hour, then completely drained, patted dry and let it air dry for another hour. And you will need 35 grams or 3 tablespoons of candied orange peel. I'm using my stand mixer with the dough hook attachment, but you can use either your hands and just knead it manually or use a hand mixer with the dough hooks as well. We're going to add all the flour to the bowl. The sugar. We're going to put the yeast on one side and then we're going to put the salt on the other, the egg and the lukewarm milk. Attach my dough hook and we're going to knead this until a ball forms and then we're going to let it knead for 10 minutes. Now that the dough has come together, I'm going to let the mixer knead it for 10 more minutes. The dough has been kneading for 10 minutes. I'm now going to add the speculaaskruiden and the butter and let that knead until it's fully incorporated. So the butter is mixed through. I'm now going to add the nuts, the raisins. The dough is pretty wet, so that's normal. And the candied orange peel. And now we're going to mix it until all the ingredients are evenly distributed. When you're baking, the humidity in your house can affect your product, and that's what happened here. It's a humid day and the dough is just a little wetter than I'd like. So I'm going to just dust the board with some flour and knead it by hand to get everything thoroughly combined. So while I'm doing this, the nice thing about making this kind of bread is that the filling can be really up to you. You don't like golden raisins? Don't put them in. Put in more regular raisins. You don't like candied orange peel? Fine, don't put it in. As long as the total weight of your filling is the same as what we have right now, you can make any combination you'd like. This is a very well-filled Stollen. Sometimes when you buy them at a bakery, there'll be hardly any filling in that. This one isn't like that. All right, I think I've done a pretty decent job. So what I'm going to do is put it in the bowl and then put it in a warm spot for an hour to let it rise. If you are enjoying this video of making a Christmas bread, please click the like and subscribe button. And if you want YouTube to notify you whenever we post a new video, click the bell. I have combined the 400 grams of almond paste with 1 egg yolk and a tablespoon of water using a hand mixer, and I have divided it into 2 even pieces. We have enough dough to make 2 regular size Stollen. I'm going to take one of these and roll it out until it is just shy of 30 centimeters or 12 inches. I have a ruler laying here to kind of use as a guide. And it's okay if it is not a perfectly even log. And we're going to do the same thing for the second one. If it's not totally even, that just means that some parts of the bread will have more almond paste than others. So young Toine would have wanted the piece with the bigger piece of almond paste in it, but now that I'm gonna, I still care. The dough has finished rising. It's twice the size it was before. And now what I'm going to do is weigh it, cut it into 2 equal pieces, and then we'll roll it out. I've divided the dough into 2 pieces, and I am now dusting my work surface, and I'm going to first just kind of use my hands to shape it. What we want to do is we want to make it 30 centimeters or maybe slightly larger, wide, that is a little over 12 inches, and then 20 centimeters this way, and 20 centimeters is 7.5 inches. Okay. So now we're going to roll it out. And Stollen is traditionally in kind of an oval shape. So the goal is to make a little bit of an oval out of it. Now the nice thing about this rolling pin is it has measuring lines on it, so I can see that I'm almost at the right width. And if I just do it like that, look at that. Perfect. Now we're going to take one of our logs and lay it closer to me. And you can squish in the ends a little bit so that we have a little bit of space to seal it. And we are going to roll the dough up like that. And then we are pinching the edges. Go back in there, a little hazelnut. And pinch the seam at the bottom a little bit. We're going to put this on the cookie sheet. And we repeat it for the second ball of dough. Let me dust the work surface again. And now we are. Okay, let's do this again. We're going to take our almond paste log, squeeze it together a little bit to give us a little bit of space, and we are going to roll it just like this. Pinch the seam, and we close the ends. This is one loaded Kerststol. Okay. Seam down on the cookie sheet. I'm going to cover this in plastic wrap and then let it rise for an hour in a warm spot. The Stollen have finished rising the second time around, and they're ready to go into the oven. I made 2 aluminum foil tents because sometimes what happens is the crust will brown too much. So we're going to keep an eye on that, and whenever the crust is at the right color, we're going to tent them individually and let them continue baking. The oven is preheated at 190 degrees Celsius, 375 degrees Fahrenheit, non-convection. They will bake for somewhere between 35 and 40 minutes but we're going to start checking it after somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes and maybe rotate the cookie sheet if one side is getting darker than the other. And we're now going to put them in the oven. The Stollen are done. They were in the oven for approximately 37 minutes and we did tent them after 20. So I've melted some butter and I'm going to brush it on the top to give it a nice glossy finish. Love the smell of melted butter. It's okay if some of those raisins fall off. There's plenty of raisins in here to make everyone happy. We're going to let this cool off completely before adding any powdered sugar on top, because if we were to add powdered sugar now, it would just melt, and you really want that powdered sugar to kind of look like snow-capped mountains. So we're going to let this cool and then literally dust the crust with powdered sugar. Good morning. It is the next day because we finished recording way too late last night for me to actually eat a slice of Kerststol. So I wrapped them in these nice cellophane bags that we have when we give these, or even the suikerbrood, and I'll put a link to that video below as well, to our friends. And I'm going to finish them right now. I'm only going to do one because the powdered sugar is something you do right before serving. So I have melted some butter. Let it cool off a little bit, and we're going to brush more butter on the bread. You can never have too much butter, right? And we're going to dust it liberally with powdered sugar. I put some parchment paper underneath it to make cleanup a little bit easier. And now it's a snowy wonderland. We're going to let this sit for a minute. Some of the powdered sugar is going to melt into the butter. So before we serve it, we're going to cover any area that seems like it isn't fully covered with powdered sugar anymore. Actually, there aren't that many spots that don't have powdered sugar, so just an extra light dusting. And now I'm going to cut a slice. Now I am cutting a slice in the middle because inside of me is still that little boy that does want almond paste in his Stollen. So I'm going to take a slice out. Let's take a look. Look how filled this bread is. There's nuts. I see some candied orange peel, of course, the almond paste. This looks fantastic. Let me move this out of the way and then we can have a taste. A little bit of butter. It doesn't even really need it because it's a very rich bread, but I do like a little butter on my Stollen. I don't put sugar on it anymore, but the butter, it just needs to be there. I can't wait any longer, so Eet Smakelijk. That was actually a perfect bite. It had raisins, nuts, and candied orange peel in it. So you get all those flavors. It's just an explosion of flavor in your mouth. I purposely didn't take a bite of the almond paste side yet. That will be my next bite. It's so good. This gets me ready for the holidays. And it tastes just like I remember eating it after midnight mass. Now a bite with almond paste. That is still my favorite bite. Even as an adult, almond paste is just one of my favorite flavors. So good. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click the like and subscribe button and don't forget to share it with your friends. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I'll post the written recipe on my website, toineskitchen.com, and you can follow me on social media. If you make Kerststollen, please take a photo and post it on Instagram with the hashtag ToinesKitchen, and I will feature it on my story and on the website. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.